How do you think Zohran Mamdani's policies are going to affect prices in New York?
It remains to be seen. Listen, worst case scenario is New York City goes on a hold. COVID was 6 years ago, right? Like it was a long time ago now, even though it doesn't feel that way. And so New York City could go on pause, right? Which just means that not a whole lot changes. Prices don't go up. Prices don't really go down. There are always panic sellers. Like during tariffs, when Trump announced tariffs for the first time earlier this year, the stock market fell, right? It was a disaster. That whole weekend, he's playing golf. Everyone's panicking. We had sellers agree to deals in New York City that were just purely based on panic. 10% lower than what they could have sold for 22 days later.
Oof.
But sellers just panic, right? Like fear fuels markets. So if you just stay calm and you just breathe, New York City has gotten through terrorist attacks, global recessions, global pandemics, climate change, or this, that, the other, way worse than a 33-year-old TikTok mayor. So like the worst that can happen is it slows down. I think what probably happens is you have a big pause on development, which means that anything under construction now, anything new, anything luxury today just gets more valuable because it goes right back to supply and demand. What draws prices down, which is what he should do, is incentivize building, rezoning, create more housing, make a ton of it more affordable. The more housing you have coming to the market, the more pressure you're going to have on pricing. And then the more you're going to have to incentivize everybody else to lower prices, do this, do that. Like Giuliani post 9/11 created a 421A and 421G tax abatement in New York City. And everyone was up in arms. And all it did is said, if you are willing to develop real estate in New York City so that people will live here and feel safe, you can defer all real estate taxes for 10 to 25 years, depending on the asset, right? Depending on if you're going to build some public infrastructure, if it's a conversion building, this, that, the other. And it boomed New York because there was incentive to come back. It created new housing. New York City bounced back post the greatest terrorist attack on U.S. soil in history, right? So if he creates incentives instead of taking away the opportunity to build, I think pricing could go through the roof. But if he just holds firm and pushes on a lot of his other policies, then New York City will probably just stay on pause for a second. Great real estate will still sell. Other real estate will just sit tight and everyone will just wait out what happens.
Does that also apply to freeze the rent?
Yeah, he's talking about rent freeze and rent stabilized and rent controlled apartments. I mean, all that does, and I get it. Like, I understand why he won. I totally understand.
Yeah.
It is unbelievably unaffordable. Not just for the home. Like, I mean, there are 350,000 people in New York City that are homeless. Like, I wear one of these bracelets on my wrist. Every dollar we sell from this one goes to the Coalition for the Homeless in New York City. And I push that as much as possible. Rent is high. Food is too high. Regular necessities are all too high. Healthcare is too high, even with Obamacare or how you use it, right? So I get it. Like if you're angry and someone comes out and says, I know why you're angry and I'm going to fix it, that guy, you vote for that guy. Whether you know how he's going to do that or not, it doesn't matter. It's just someone who's aligning with your anger. Like I totally get it. Mirroring anger is probably the greatest way to the office ever. We saw Trump do it on the same side. Mamdani is the left's version of Trump. Right? It took the hard left position. And a lot of people said, yeah. But if you talk to people right now as to, great, awesome, how is this going to happen? No one has any idea. And nor do they really care. But I think if he focuses on creating instead of taking, we could have a great city. And I hope he does, man. Like there's only one New York.
How would a rent freeze in New York City affect the prices?
I don't know because I don't think it's possible. So like I don't think there's a real case study in the US anyway, definitely in New York. What a rent freeze will do is disincentivize anyone who actually owns said apartments to fix them. And so you go back to like New York City of the 60s and 70s where you have these derelict buildings with apartments that are falling apart, hallways that are crap, light bulbs that are out, trash that's not picked up. And that then affects the sidewalk, which then affects the next building, that then affects the next building. And then developers come and say, well, I can't build on this block. These buildings are all disaster. That then affects the next building. And then these buildings go underwater because the rents are frozen, but you're not freezing interest rates. You freeze rent, that's fine. but you're not freezing the rates. You're not freezing markets. You're not freezing time. And so who's going to fix all these apartments with what money? Like with what profit? You're just not going to do it. And that's what happens.
You know what I never understood is why rent control still applies to people who make several $100,000 a year. I thought it would be a great principle, at least better than the current system, is if you're making above a certain amount, you're not rent controlled. Because otherwise you have people that are making $200,000 a year that just happen to be in a rent controlled spot because they happened to sign a lease in 2010.
Yeah. It's hard to get tenants out of apartments who are making more money. It does happen. Rent control was not set up for people who can afford free market apartments. It is what it is. You know?
How would you change the housing market if you were mayor?
The number one problem is lack of affordable inventory. That is it. So your number one goal should be to incentivize building. You do that through rezoning and developer build and tax credits. It's not bad, it's good. And you also look at, in New York City, the number of New York State and New York City owned buildings. One of the things that Trump talked about this last time was the amount of federally owned land in the United States. And nothing's being done with it. So what could you do with that to create incentives to get builders to come and build 10,000 houses? But you have to do a school and a grocery store and free fare buses. Sure, why not? To have the right to go build 10,000 houses? Well, sure, right? You want to create incentive, but it's not just the housing. Who's going to live in these houses? So then you have to follow some of the Bloomberg policies where he said, we are going to create incentives for businesses to come here to create jobs, right? We're not going to disincentivize Amazon to bring 10,000 W-2 workers here, which is exactly what New York City did, and said, hey, you can afford to pay taxes. And they said, we're going to pay taxes. We're going to bring 10,000 jobs here. And then he went to another state, right? You would create incentives for companies to come from all over the country to say New York City is the absolute greatest place to innovate. You create innovation awards. You want New York City to be on a pedestal where people say, I couldn't start my career anywhere else because all the major employers are actually in New York City. They're incentivized to be there. They have tax credits because they created 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100,000 new jobs every single year, right? There's 125,000 babies born in New York City every single year. We should be creating through government incentives that many new jobs on top of what the private markets are already creating. Like, why would you not do that? Why is creating opportunity seen as such a bad thing? Who else is going to pay for everything? 50% of the tax revenue in New York City is paid for by the 1% of the taxpayers. What do you do if that 1% goes to another state? Every state is its own company, right? New York is a company with a CEO, a COO, a board, right? California, Nevada, it's its own company. All of your residents are employees. That's what they are. And you have to incentivize your C-suite the same way you have to incentivize your interns to want to be there. You should all be focused on making the greatest Yelp scores, right? Glassdoor reviews should be the absolute best. But they don't do that, right? Where are the bloated budgets? Where can you cut it down, create inefficiencies, and just create incentive to build? That will lower prices. That'll create more housing. And if you combine that with more jobs, like you would have not just the healthiest housing market, but you'd have one of the healthiest markets in the US.
If you've ever been denied a car loan, credit card, or even an apartment because of what's on your credit report, you are not alone. Most people don't even know what's hurting their credit score, let alone how to fix it. That is exactly where our sponsor DisputeBeast comes in. It's an AI-powered platform that helps you find and remove outdated or inaccurate items from your credit report fast.
We're talking things like late payments, old accounts and collections, or even accounts that don't belong to you. Not to mention, how it works is super easy. You connect your credit report and DisputeBeast scans it for negative marks that could be dragging down your score. Then it generates custom dispute letters tailored for your situation, no templates and no guesswork.
You could choose to just download the data and send it to the agencies yourself, or you can use their built-in mail service where they will literally handle everything for you.
It's honestly just really clean and simple to use, and it's built by experts.
So if you're ready to take back control of your credit, go to disputebeast.com/ICH today. There's also a link down below in the description, disputebeast.com/ICH. Guys, they will literally handle everything for you. If you're dissatisfied with your credit, they will do all of the research, let you know what's going wrong, and they will fight for you. disputebeast.com/ICH. Thank you so much to DisputeBeast for sponsoring this clip.